Alright guys, in this video, we're going to go through World 2 and defeat the Great Sandworm at the end of the world. How are we going to do it with only a tiny bit of HP and no resources? Watch to the end to find out. Okay, so we're starting from the sands. We've got a dungeon, temple, guild, mine, enchantress. So with our stats, the dungeon is not really viable. It's a little too many resources necessary to defeat that. We basically have none. The temple could be interesting, but we're really short on chips because we want to get some sort of equipment to defend ourselves. Guild, haggling or scouting. Haggling gives you a 15% discount. Let's say if you spent 30 chips, 15% off. Let's say that's 10% is 3, 15% would be like 4 or 5. If you're going to spend at least 20 to 30 chips in the rest of the game, then it could be worth it. Scouting to reveal 3 locations ahead, and then scouting, of course, is free. So I think we just take scouting and not mess around with that. The enchantress is interesting. It's really expensive, and none of these abilities add any defensive capability, or do they help kill the enemy quicker? I'd rather just have the chips for basic upgrades and things like that. Now I think the mine is the most useful because we can use the mine to get some gems. So if we have 6 gems, then we can deal out a lot more damage because every time we use a gem, we'll get 3 cards. So if we get 3 cards in addition to starting 5, that means we're dealing 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8 cards. So we can hit our ace way more consistently. We can hit Poison Spear and Sword potentially twice with a cooldown reset. So essentially we get 2 rounds of attacks if we have at least 8 cards. It's not directly a defensive ability, but if we can reduce the number of rounds it takes to kill the enemy, we can prevent them from having the opportunity to attack us in the first place. So that's why I think this is a good move. Now, raising the gem limit, I'm not really a fan of this just because I'm going to be using gems. I don't think I'm ever going to be in a situation where I'm going to be saving them. So I don't need this right now. Okay, typically, again, I'll go for the harder fights that are worth more chips. Right now, we're just really struggling here. Unless there's really like a giveaway fight, like there's some really easy fights in the game. None of these look particularly easy. So since none of these fights are very easy, I'm just going to go to the campsite. Okay, so on the campsite, I'm definitely going to rest. It's easy. Hunt, again, it's free, easy. We've got scouting, so this is also free. And refilling a consumable planter is really the only option. So that's good. That means that we can try to get more food down the road. So let's see what we've got ahead of us. So we've got a shop, so there is some hope. We've also got a treasure and a casino. So to get to the shop, we have to go through this cave. So this cave means any of these 4. So the paths are pretty open to get there. If I go the upper path, I've got a fire orc or a zombie, and then chips or a casino. I like casinos, but then if I go for the casino route, that means we have to go for the Rune Mancer. She has a lot of HP and she hits pretty hard for 30. Every turn she gets an extra card, so this is kind of an inevitable loss. Sledgehog blocks for a lot, but block expires. Something like Curse would work very well here. Poison would work very well here. So him we could actually probably kill pretty easily. At this point, bad luck will basically kill us. We don't have enough HP to sort of survive multiple consecutive hits. So that means we have to avoid these 2 most likely. So this path is off, so now we can go through these chips. So that means we're not going for the casino. So basically that means we're going for the fire orc. Okay, the fire orc has Inflame, and he has Smash. Probably going to hit us pretty often. We're probably going to be using Duke. And the question is, what do we swap out for Planter? Orderly Sword, I believe, is probably the worst because I think his abilities are both common. This is at best maybe 20 a turn. I'd rather just survive turns. We do get a food, which is good. So let's go and see what we can do. He needs 2 more black cards to smash. A 50% and a 50%. So I guess it's like 25% chance. Same thing with 4 red cards. He would need a 50% and a 50% chance. So he has a 25% chance basically of inflaming, 25% chance of smashing, and a 50% chance of doing nothing. So if I was going to take a risk, I would survive with 1 HP. I will take a risk on this one. We have 2 8s for the planter. So I think that's a no-brainer. We'll go for the planter. Just to have that. I think we do go for gems. So I think we go for it. Okay, so we got 20 poison. I guess 19. Cooldown reduction, and do more poison. It's going to take 34, and fingers crossed we don't get hit. We don't get hit. Great. Okay, so with 4 black cards, he only needs 1 black card. So what's the percentage chance of having at least 1 black card? So there's 50% chance of getting 1, plus another 50% chance of getting 1. So it's not 100%. but I think it's like 75% or something. So that's like saying, what is the chance of flipping 2 coins and getting at least 1 heads? We've got a pair of 9s, so we can afford to stun, I think, at this point, because it's pretty likely he's going to hit us. Well, the question is, do we want to use gems first? If you look at the map, if we can beat this fight, we can basically get a clear path to the shop. We can also roll a treasure, so that increases the chance of us getting something defensive. We are going to spend a lot of resources here just to make sure we don't die. Planter, I think we have to use Duke. We're going to use a cooldown reduction here, so we could save these 9s to use the last planter, and that way we're set for the rest of the encounter. So let's assume we're going to use those for the planter. So for this guy, we're going to use a 6 and let's say king. So then if we cooldown reset, we can do one more thing and a planter. Planter, poison. All right, so 4 black cards. Pretty likely that he's going to hit us. He's at 150, quite a few turns until we kill him. Luckily, we did get an ace. 53, so this is roughly a 3-turn clock. So the question is, actually, are we going to starve? And we're going to get 1 from killing this guy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to eat 5 just to get here. We're going to arrive at shop with 1. So if we arrive at shop with 1, that means we can afford to spend 1 food on a stun. So if we stun this turn, reset cooldowns, attack again. If he dies next turn, so stun. Okay. There's the attack. We reset cooldowns. So if we just do poison, that puts him at 73 poison. I think he does die next turn. Do that. And then he dies this turn. We just end turn and win. Let's clean up the inventory real quick before we forget. We'll take out Planter, bring back Orderly Sword. Now let's go to the path that we're thinking about. So can't take the casino because this fight is going to be too hard. Go for chips. Question is, do we want to go for the 10s or the treasure? I think the treasure is a better bet because we might get some defensive. Halberd. That's okay, I guess. 4 chips. We're not going to fight the cave because it's going to kill us. And it's time to go to the shop. Just ran out of food and are now starving. Every world map step you take, you'll lose 20 HP. Going to be down to 7. So this is a shop that has to pay off. What do we have? Soul Seeker, Chain Lightning, can't afford that. Sword, Blackjack, Book of Cards, Pet Snake. So we got no defensive items. That's no good. So Anemic Dart is interesting because it will help us kill the enemy a lot quicker. And that might be what we use to defeat the boss. Let's check the map real quick and see what's up next. So we've got a tavern, a campsite, or a flea market, and then a boss battle. Campsite is definitely 2 food. Flea market could be a lot more than 2 food, and we could get gems. Tavern is maybe a food, and then the shop obviously sells food. Let's double check the boss. So this guy is the Great Sandwyrm. He has an attack that kills us, basically. So you can't let him attack. He has a 3-card flush ability that heals for 8 and cures all negative effects. So basically, we can't let him use the ability, which means that we're probably going to be stunning him every turn and trying to load him with as much poison as we can to kill him as quick as possible. We probably don't win unless we get anemic. We also have to have enough food to stun. So that's really our game plan for clearing World 2 at this point, and I have no idea how we're going to get through World 3 with no defensive items, just relying on RNG, basically. So I think we just go for the Anemic Dart. The game plan right now is we need to have lots of food, so we're just going to buy all the food here. Thankfully there's 4. So we buy the Anemic Dart, we got all the food. We could buy gems too. If I spend 6, that's going to translate into 9 cards during that fight. Or if I spend 7, it's going to translate into 4 cards during that fight because it's going to be +1 gems, and I have 4 gems. But I also get it for the rest of the game. So we're going to get the gem draw upgrade. We might want to have some chips just in case we need to use the flea market. So we'll have, I think 6 is good. And let's go to the tavern. So here we just heal for free. The vision, normally I would get this. At this point, we're not really planning for much. I could buy food again. I guess the question is, what else would I spend my chips on? Well, we have to decide then, are we going for the camp or are we going for the flea market? So we're going to go to the boss fight with -1, +2. So 3 with the option of refilling the planter to get up to 3 more, maybe, during the fight. And we have to get pairs. It's pretty likely that we're going to get pairs with all the cards we're getting. So I would say the campsite is a pretty safe bet. I think the flea market is definitely riskier. We could get gems in the flea market. We could get food in the flea market, but we could also just not get any of those things. We got a lot of energy though, so if there's anything that lets us trade energy, we just need to have good luck to win this run. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So we'll go for the flea market. So let's finish out. The question is, do we want to buy food or save it? I think we save it for the flea market just in case. So let's go. Okay, great. This flea market looks good so far. We've got 6 energy for 4 food. Great. 4 chips for 3 gems seems good, and then we can do another 3 gems for 3 food, which is basically 4 chips for 3 food, which is good. Or we could keep it and keep the gems. How many times are we going to need to do a cooldown reduction? It costs 3, so we can do this 3, 6, 9, 12. We can do this 4 times right now. So maybe we want some of that energy back. Well, at the very least, buying gems is good here. And then turning that into food. Are stuns better or cards better? Every turn I get lets me use the sword again. Every card I get lets me do bigger spears. Well, not really, because spears are limited by my cooldowns, which are limited by my turns. So this extends my turns. Okay, so I think we go for the food. Now the question is, how much do we care about energy? I think we do care about energy enough. We're also going to get some energy just moving. We're going to get 2 just going there. So we're going to go to the fight with 16. 16, and this costs 3 a pop. So I could go in with 3 cooldown resets or 5 cooldown resets. Trade-off is I end up with 6 chips. Is that? I already got the gem drop upgrade. So I think this is good. We're just going to leave the flea market. Overall, definitely better than campsite in this case. Now let's go into the fight. All right, the Great Sandwyrm. Unlucky for me, you got a 4-card flush turn 1, so we definitely have to stun him. I think we're going to gem for sure, because we're going to gem every turn in this fight in order to maximize our chances. We've got a 2-card straight, so we could start with this. I mean, it's going to hit for sure because he's not doing anything. The only problem now is I just realized that Cursed is going to cause him to draw 2 more cards than he normally would have. So that was a bad move in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes. Next up, we've got Poison Spear and Sword, so we can do 15 exactly like this. We can do 2 cards here, cooldown reset, hit again. I think the second time we'll do poison. Here, cooldown reset, turn. I think we go sword. Okay, we're still okay. So he's definitely got a 3-card flush. Have to stun again. Not really an option here, so there goes the food. So we're going to use a gem. Still cursed. We don't need to use this again. Still no aces, unfortunately. So we're just going to start with poison, and then can I get... There's 15 with low cards. Then we do a cooldown reset, come in with more poison. So I think that's the turn. He's going to get hit by poison. So we're going to turn on a new dart. All right, so we end turn. So from here, we've got aces, which is great. We're probably going to do cooldown reset. We got ace. I think this is 15. This, cooldown reset, ace again, 16. I want to do poison here because anemic is going to grow even more. And then we do Duke. All right, so I think we just win because he's got 86 health and 134 poison. So that's the power of anemic darts. We have no defensive skills here, no defensive equipment, and we still got it. Also, we only have 5 food. All right, so that was actually a little bit easier than expected. We got pretty lucky with the food here at the end, pretty unlucky with defensive abilities. Luckily, there's a shop here coming up in the next world. All right, let me do a quick recap just to explain why I think we were able to win that fight. There's 5 main reasons. First one is consumables. We had the anemic dart that let us scale our poison damage way faster than we could just by using the spear every turn, or even twice a turn. Second was DPS. With that spear, we're able to do damage every single turn without having to load up a huge attack. Remember we had that huge halberd that we're not playing? At best, it does 55 a turn. If we reset the cooldown, maybe it does 100, right? That would take 4 turns and way more gems and everything than we really have. Number 3 was stun. right? Duke is still, I think, a pretty terrible stun because it uses your food resource, but we had enough food that we can make it through, and we completely denied any attacks from the enemy. 4 was gems, right? If you were paying attention, the only reason we're able to rack up so much poison, part of that was anemic, obviously, but the other part was being able to reset our cooldowns and then dump cards into that poison spear twice a turn in some cases. And lastly, like I hinted at it, number 5 is abilities. Resetting that cooldown ability was very clutch. It got us the ability to use poison twice a turn, occasionally hit 2 aces, do some crazy stuff, and that's pretty much it. You'll notice the things I didn't mention were equipment didn't really help us. In fact, I think I hurt myself by cursing the Sandwyrm because it gave it 2 extra cards. There might have been turns where we wouldn't have to stun it if it didn't draw as many cards. The other thing about equipment is that we're mainly relying on our spear still that we started with at the very beginning of the game. I've seen some cool stuff in shops, but it was just never the time to buy it. And the stuff that we picked up randomly is okay, but nothing too crazy or wildly powerful yet. So check out the next video to see if we pick up any defensive items or if we're still stuck here trying to hobble our way through this run. Thanks guys, I'll catch you in the next video.